Please welcome Sakinah Hoeffler.
I just realized there was 4 glasses of water already up here, so put mine's way over here. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. I'm really, of course, nervous, but excited to be reading from my novel in progress. I've only read from it a few times. It's currently titled Starshine Stock Clay. It's based off a poem. The title's based off a poem by Lucille Clifton. And it's about a woman trying to escape the world of forced prostitution. The only thing you need to know is that the story happens in 2 timelines. The novel. There's a second-person narrator that takes place in the past that kind of explores how did she become, or how did she get into the world of forced prostitution, and a first-place present where she's trying to escape and leave with her daughter. It's also inspired, if anyone wants to know, by my volunteer work with Polaris Project, which is a nonprofit agency dedicated to eradicating modern-day slavery. And there's a content warning. There is sexual assault in the excerpt I'll be reading. This is how it begins. You get off at the wrong bus stop because you thought the bus driver had said New York, though you've known about Newark, your supposed birthplace, your whole life. You've fallen asleep somewhere along the highway, and when you woke up and saw skyscrapers and Russian people, you thought you were in the right place. It is only after walking past the Dunkin' Donuts kiosk and noticing the old-fashioned letters above the ticket counter spelling Newark Penn Station that you realize you got off at the wrong stop. You aren't the only one confused because the woman with the blue hair who had been sitting behind you since Aberdeen also stands stiff listening. She notices you, noticing her, and offers you a smile you're too afraid to return. Bet you did what I did, she says, and walks over to the ticket counter. You take one step back and then another. There are squeaks of tennis shoes and business shoes, kids whining voices, and people sprawled out in the wooden benches that remind you of church pews. I'm very sorry, y'all. It's a spider web that's attached to my nose. Okay. All right. The woman returns holding a schedule, shaking her head, her hair puffed like a blue cloud above her brown face. So we're definitely in Newark, she says, though the bus driver has said it so fast it rhymed with fork. The guy at the counter says we could catch a train to New York's Penn Station on track 1, about $5. There's another train called the Path that's half that. But you have to change trains and walk a couple of blocks to get to New York's Penn Station. You don't know what she's talking about. This all sounds foreign to you. And even if you wanted to get on the train, you've only got 4 singles left in your pocket. You glance at the price of a donut, 68 cents. Your foster mother will smack the donut out your hand, tell you you're so fucking greedy, so fucking ungrateful, a fucking thief, but she ain't here. You want to go to New York. You want to see the Times Square and the Statue of Liberty your real mother promised she'd take you to. You want to get so lost in crowds, your dumbass foster mother will never find you. But here in Newark's Penn Station, you smell donuts. You feel shoulders, knees, arms swimming around you. Rush hour, though you don't fully understand what that means yet. You learn very quickly when men go to work, when they come home from work, when men say they're working or have to work, and when they really aren't or don't. But right here and now, you've got this black lady with a lined face and blue hair asking if you need help. You point at the benches. I'm in the right place. I'm gonna wait for my aunt over there. The lady looks like she has something to say, but you turn, march over to a bench, sit, pull out a cell phone, the one that used to belong to your mother, the one whose minutes ran out nearly 2 years ago, and push the buttons. When you look back up, the lady's gone. You will never see her again. You'll give it 3 minutes, 180 seconds feels like an eternity. You'll wait in the Dunkin' Donuts line and order 4 donuts and an orange juice just because you can. The cashier hands you 60 cents change. You remember the amount because it was all in dimes. You remember the orange juice tasting bitter after you finish your Boston cream donut. You take 1, 2, 3 trips to the bathroom, a bathroom that smells like what your mother used to call hot fish. You wait. You go outside, out a door you realize too late takes you behind Penn Station. The temperature has dropped dramatically. People move about dressed in tatters or snugly, pushing shopping carts or lugging bags. You only have your book bag, the one you swiped from Rite Aid last month. You look at the people waiting in a bus shelter and think of asking them for help, but they're all looking at something else. There's a tiny square of park behind Penn Station. You sit on a bench outside, finger the 60 cents in your pocket, and try to figure out what comes next. You've been here before in a situation, but much closer to Maryland. Even if you get away for a few days, somehow, someway, you wind up back in the system. You'd rather sit in this park. You rifle through your book bag as if you've forgotten what you've packed. 4 pairs of underwear, a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, a long-sleeve shirt. This, you pull over your head and you feel not a lot warmer, but better than before. You think the temperature deliberately drops with a degree with each passing second. A man hobbling on a cane, dragging, which you'll later learn are called Chinese laundry bags, walks up to you and tells you to get the fuck off his bench. You feel a spray from his spit, you smell holy hot fish, you get the fuck off his bench. The man keeps screaming, dumb bitch, sitting on my bench, get the fuck away, get the fuck away. You are tired of being yelled at. In fact, the only thing people have done since your mother's death is yell at you. You scream, fuck you. He starts swinging his cane in a figure-8 motion, not quite hitting you, but it whips past your ear, and you're not sure which way to jump, so you hold up your fist, ready to knock him out if it comes to that. That's when you hear another man say, leave. Leave her alone or I'll kill you myself. The cane stops. He's beautiful. That shouldn't be your first thought because both he and the old man grip the cane. But he is. His skin's smooth, the first word that pops into your head, strangely golden, and he's dressed in a pressed plaid shirt and jeans. He yanks the cane from the old man and asks, are you okay? You nod. Are you sure? Yes. He raises the cane at the old man and calmly says, go away or I'll beat you to death. The old man hobbles away, dragging his laundry bags behind him. In a soft voice, the beautiful man tells you his name and that he drove by you twice. After the third time, he became concerned. That's the first time in nearly 2 years someone has been worried about you. You waiting for someone, he asks? Maybe it's the niceness of his voice, the caring tone that makes you burst into tears. All the makeup you piled on is rubbing off on the back of your hands, black streaks and brown smears, and his coat is around your shoulders, and he leads you to his car. You're afraid of the old man, but the old man's up the street now, and this man does something no one has ever done for you before. He opens the passenger door for you. You climb in. Later, he'll take you to Burger King, and you'll order number 4, because that's what your mother used to bring home, and he'll take you to his apartment. He'll show you how to operate the hot and cold, and you'll continue to cry. You'll let him undress you and kiss you, and you curl up with him and tell him about your mother, and he'll tell you about his. In the morning, he'll be gone, and you'll panic. But he'll return with McGriddle pancakes and clothes that are just your size, and sweaters, and a coat, and yes, thank you, yes, thank you, yes, yes, thank you. This is how it begins, with a favor. He needs one. Everything good in this world has a price. But first, 2 days after he saved you, you meet her. The sound of sliding drawers wakes you, and you see a figure hunched over the bottom drawer. My bad are her first words, didn't mean to wake you. She's what your mother used to call high yellow with flaming red curls cropped close to her head and freckles splatter across her face and body. She's also butt-ass naked. You expect her pubes to match her brows and her hair, but she's smooth down there, not one hair in sight. There's a tattoo on her right arm, a barcode whose numbers are too tiny for you to make out, but you notice the code begins with MM. You'll get your own brand soon enough. She introduces herself as Cassie, aka Cash, and you mumble your name, starting to understand that someone as wonderful as him couldn't belong only to you, that someone like him must be shared. You relax when she pulls on a purple dress, but tense when she says, Daddy wants her to fix you up. Daddy, you ask? Daddy, she says. You let her draw on your eyebrows, make your lips full of powder, everything, squeeze in a bra. Oh my gosh, she says, we are so sisters. You look nothing alike, but you like her saying that. Sisters. She tells you she's been with Daddy for over a year and how he treats her to only the best. She tosses out your mother's cell phone and tells you he'll get you a new one, a burner, she calls it. She tells you Daddy saved her from her shitty-ass father. You think of your own stepfather and wonder if there's something worse than what he did to your mother. But she tells you in detail her fear of footsteps and belts and closets and coat hooks. And you understand tragedy sometimes isn't comparable, only lived, survived. When she's done, she hugs you and tells you, you look amazing. And you do, you really do. There's a new version of you, a new person with a blonde wig, full of lips, cleavage, and an ass. Daddy's words when he sees you, grown up, incredibly sexy, beautiful, gorgeous, and you feel that way. You feel the words that no one has ever used to describe you before. Grown, sexy, beautiful, gorgeous. Then he says he has something personal to tell you, his voice cracking, and you're immediately at his feet. Something that only those closest to him knows. His grandmother, the woman whom you learned, has been raising him since his mother's death. Something's not right with her brain. You had a new term to your vocabulary, cognitive decline. This will join other words you'll learn in the coming weeks, including bottom, main, John, quota. For now, you mouth the word cognitive, and he tells you how you're a part of a family now, his family, and how you're all working together to take care of each other and take care of bills. You help us, right? Yeah, of course. Kiki, he says, Keeks. I like how that sounds. Kiki, you say, Keeks. Cash is drawn on her own face and laughing. She's high on something, but not a bad, nodding high, the kind you find in downtowns and bathrooms, but a happy, giggling high. She asks if you want H, E, some things you heard of, some things you haven't. You know when she offers you a drink, and she laughs when you take a baby sip of the clear liquid and make a face. No, you gotta drink Seagrams like this. She tosses her head back and swallows the vodka in one gulp. You follow her lead, and it nearly comes up as fast as it went down. But you swallow once, twice, and it stays. You take a smaller, more manageable shot, and then a third and a fourth, it becomes easier as the two of you drink and laugh in the back of his car. She even teaches you the rap she made for her name. There was once a girl named Cassie, super sweet and super sassy, bitch, both ruthless and fucking classy. Fuck with her and you get your ass whipped. Sisters, you keep saying. Sisters. The world blurs. You remember an elevator, the number 29, being amazed at the floor-to-ceiling windows, the view of New York where you'll never see the Statue of Liberty, but the streets of Hunts Point. Someone offers you a drink. 3 dead men in Mexico. You laugh at the name. It's funny, it makes no sense. While men clutch plastic cups of Jim and Jack and Johnny and Jose Cuervo, nod and smile at you and rub your back. Those same men later reach for your breast, your hair, your ass. And you try to run to the balcony to release everything that's been rolling inside of you and in the bathroom, but you never make it to either because those men clutch you and thrust themselves further in every hole anyone has ever been before, and it hurts more than anything ever has before. You lose count. You find a moment of amazement at how useless your arms and legs are against these men. You crave blackness, and thank goodness, thank even God, to finally receive something after you've prayed for it. He shakes you awake. Your eyes hurt, your head hurts, your ass hurts. It has been a few days, you're not sure how many, but it burns when you pee. The only time you've left the bed, in fact, was to pee. You don't want to eat, you don't want to get up. Cash, AKA Cassie, has placed ice packs over your body and murmured words like, we're real sisters now. Daddy's voice is soft. Let's get you clean. He squeezes Dove on his hands and gently rubs all over your bruises, over the handprints and bite marks men have left on you. He aims his shower head at the dry, common blood zigzagging down your legs, white and maroon streaks fading, gone. You did so good, he whispers as he towels you off. You've made me so proud, Kiki, Keeks. The question is, are you going to keep doing what you need to do for our family? I love you, and I don't want to have to drop you back off at Penn Station. You remember the cold bench and the old man. You remember being alone, the definition of alone, the full meaning of nothing and no one and nothingness and no family, the not knowing, no. You don't want to go back to that. You're like, not alone. You tell him, you'll stay. Thank y'all. And next, I would like to bring the wonderful Kate Jayroe up to the stage. Please give her a round of applause. We love hugs.
Good afternoon. How wonderful was that reading? Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful to have such excellent company and to get to come back here to the mountain. Thank you so much to Adrian, Jonathan, and Shelby for your wisdom, insight, notes, and support regarding this short story. I'll be reading from the beginning section. A slow, promising mend. They say to stretch, but they don't make it easy. Blood swells. Clots are a main concern. It is preferred you stay put, all told. They say this medical miracle work began with an ice pick, something domestic, something terrifying. Its path is transorbital. Instead of striking ice, they sever some lobes. They go up at an angle. Just imagine the tampon instruction, the little diagram, but going to the brain through an eye socket rather than guiding some chlorinated cotton in a half scrape, half glide to the heart of the womb. The result of a lobotomy is that of a woman changed, something domestic, something terrifying. A docility glosses all previous hostility. She no longer requires a better quality of life. She no longer wants to leave the child or kill the man, or even to simply resent them in quiet ways. She is happy to take the ice pick and strike at something cold. Driving past the old sanitarium, I take Bull Street, then turn to take Elmwood, then turn to take the old highway home. They say luxury condos will replace rampant wisteria and the rutting of feral cats in and around its huge old halls. There are yet cannulas and yet cold, flat places for a woman to lie on her back and get better, and all of this, it is nestled in its dirty state of a very pretty sort of neglect. If I had to venture the guess, I would say the last lobotomy was offered here in Columbia, South Carolina, after the fashion had gone out. I've long felt that North Carolina wants to join the world at large, as South Carolina shutters its windows to such devilish turns and instead keeps a fixed eye on all its losses and all of God's cruel, important work. Getting home means getting bothered. I check my email. Almost all of the emails flooding in are from one person. A lawyer named Larry M. Deacon has been sending me New York Times articles about the craft of writing via email for nigh on 4 months. He was cucked once up in New England. I do check my email shortly after awakening and then periodically throughout a day. I do not subscribe to the New York Times. In my heart, I know these articles probably have helpful insights and employ varying perspectives through their focus upon different writerly voices. Years ago, I wrote an interview with a writer for a regional magazine. It concerned the craft of writing. It was referenced in that week's roundup of solid lit stuff over at the New York Times. Something cosmopolitan about checking email. I cannot read these articles without paying money. I chastise myself for not writing each day. I think much, but my body does not to the Word docs go. There is an ebb and a flow, after all. Natural, the feeling of being in one's own personal decline during a time of illness and fear, I think to myself. I think I should note-zap that. I note-zap it. I say stuff like this to myself when I'm walking or in the car. I say stuff like this as I descend a large hill in town where I often walk. I walk. I begin my ascent of the large hill in town where I often walk. A hot flush blooms in my throat as I recall what I had last week. A man was had, oh, so good. We met at the one truly solid bar near where I live, the opposite direction from Columbia, a 2-story, newly renovated and creeping toward the upstate. I cannot recall the name of the man who was had. He works at a Sherwin-Williams paint store an hour and a half up. We have the same birthday, but he crowned 7 years before me in a tidy little room with tubes, a gown. He had a room at the Hampton Inn across the way from the bar. A hot and good bath was had, a Sherwin-Williams single at the Hampton Inn. We both get angry, not then, but in general. We cannot tolerate bullshit. He is a cancer. Had I been born 8 hours and 22 minutes earlier, I too would be a cancer, but I was not. I was born 8 hours and 22 minutes into being a Leo. He understands. He's got a cock like a thornless rose and lashes to bat out of the goddamn park. He caught me combing the dark for my plaid bra at 4:53 a.m. You don't have to look in the dark, he said. He flipped on the switch. His arm had the cum rag draped on it. He slept with it slung on its arm, and his arm was upright for some reason. I found that to be quite sexy. He genuinely enjoyed all my fuck noises, which I'm grateful for. I have a Notes app gratitude list. I typed Sherwin-Williams fuck noises at the tippy top of my Notes app gratitude list. Sherwin-Williams was around with other Sherwin-Williams employees for a work-related fishing tournament. He was grateful to awaken when he did due to my combing the dark. Oh shit, he said, don't want to miss the boat. He gave me a ride in his vintage Mustang. I said, this is a beautiful car. He raised his brow. Once you go old-fashioned like this, you won't go back. The next morning, I wake in bed. I catch my breath. I blush all over again, yet thinking of Sherwin-Williams. Cover the earth. The cock crows. I yawn where I sleep, my husband's golf tees and gun nestled snug in the nightstand, an ivory vibrator, family Bible. I see all these emails with headlines like, this best-selling writer is bored to tears by all books, or suburban dad cleans up on writing awards and his secret is simple. Larry M. Deacon's name is there in my mind and on my phone so soon after becoming conscious on earth for a new and blessed day. The New York Times, Big Apple. The church down the street goes into its daily rendition of Holy, Holy, Holy. The large hill in town where I often walk blooms its hydrangeas. An old family grave plot is up here to the westernmost side. I think of what my mother-in-law told me about the graves. She said they had empty coffins to start. They couldn't find the bodies, but knew they'd all been gone. Months back, Larry M. Deacon told me of being cucked. We shared a couch in my mother-in-law's parlor during the reception following my husband's funeral. Fordham student, he said. The Fordham student owned a see-through blouse. I nodded knowingly, despite the fact that I knew nothing about this. She wanted to break it off, but wasn't sure how, he said. So, he said, she planned this elaborate ruse. We were to meet at her father's beach house in Maine. She told me to bring my motorcycle. She had a surprise. I was driving a trailer with a motorcycle inside it, he said. I even had to bribe the toll guy to let me through. He said motorcycles and trailers are expressly forbidden. They want their bikes in plain view. Once I got to her daddy's beach house, the jig was up. Like a lady shark she was, on a wet floor with a local man. He was like a well-oiled man. I got it. I did. Larry the lawyer's plate smelled like the little fried chicken bones on it. I wondered to myself if the Fordham student is still alive, and if she ever went back to Fordham and messed around with her old sorority sisters, or whatever they do up there after they grow up and marry men. I was confused by all of the details, but was all right with hearing about this. I knew he just wanted me to know about the reality of his glory days. I get it, I recall thinking. There were times in my own life when I did things which some could call interesting or boring or an abomination or hot or whatever. Further, there was a time when I told people about these things. Trollop lore, a trollop of yore, a lone strumpet strolling about town in search of bullshit. Not now, though, not since a while ago. I'm a no bullshit person tolerating a bullshit tale in a haze of grief. Now, Larry has gone so far as to drop off a book on the porch here at my house about how to get your manuscript looked at in an honest and critical and fair way by a literary agent. It's okay so far. There are helpful quotations at the beginning of each chapter by people whose faces they decorate the tops of the Barnes & Noble cafe with. My problem is procrastinating. In fact, I sometimes drive to the county line rather than write just to take a piss at this historic Methodist church's historic Methodist graveyard, and to sigh a whole bunch, and to drink a Diet Limeade, and to cry a little bit, while thinking about this one time when I was holding a guy's hand in the back of an expensive golf cart years and years ago. He told me I was a star, pointing his free hand up. At the edge of the county, the silos hold ivy. The forest is thick. It's all wild. It's all dead. Before I was born, Larry was fortunate enough to have a first wife. She came from the county edge, darkness and river, snakes, and a swamp. She went away years ago, cocaine, still doing time. The first wife's sister does time too. She's got even more time than her sister does. The first wife's sister chucked her husband's body off the side of the large hill in town where I often walk. Each time I walk this hill, I think of a spouse's body spiraling in an adrenaline rush, having just disposed of their spouse's body. The first wife's father was once a high-up bishop. He blessed all the animals once a year. People like that, even the snakes. I think of the cows that chewed cud on this hill long before the town was town and when the town was land with cows. I think of what my mother-in-law told me. On the hill before and alongside the time of the cows, but well over 150 years before the body of the spouse, there were cannibals. Supposedly. Supposedly, they only ate each other out of need. But who knows, maybe they liked it. Court TV did a special on it. The spouse murder, I mean. This was in the times of those gateway home computers with the cow print boxes. Brittany was doing the Got Milk campaign. The sister of Larry's first wife is a locally renowned anti-hero, Ira of Lorena. There is a natural spring which flows down the hidden side of the hill in town. There, the air is cooler and frogs more plentiful. Poison ivy and church key cans long ago shot with drunken bullets abound. Who knows who else has bones in that hill? The meat all sucked off. My husband had this tattoo of a knife, which spanned the length of his left side of his middle. I loved to stroke the knife as he slept and as I fell asleep. I catch myself reaching out from habit, stroking the side of a down pillow rather than the man I love. It enrages me. I imagine stabbing someone with a fluffed goose down pillow. Feathers fly, no injuries sustained. When he went to work that day, I did wonder. I didn't know what I was wondering at that time, but it is no wonder now. It was one of those rush hour deals, malfunction junction they call it. The EMTs arrived, their white sheet, all too eager to grow loose and get on top of my man. No doubt about it. My husband and I once drove down the Pacific coast. We found ourselves mesmerized at the restlessness of Western waters. One of our favorites was Eureka, a small town with huge Victorian homes and lots of junkies on a slow, promising mend. We ate soft shell with lemon, made love in a yurt. We sold stuff all the way down, psychedelics mostly, real wholesome stuff. Sherwin-Williams took me by surprise with his flashing eyes and grinning chest hairs, the 7 total cigars he had bunched up on his hotel room desk beside a thing of Swiss cake rolls. His strong fingers gathered love and despair from my pretty mound. It takes weeks for me to mop one room. This is the sort of person I am. I have mopped the room 12,000 times in my fantasies, my night terrors, my inner rehearsal, my life opera. When I finally do mop, it is so romantic in how it feels. Been destined to mop it in the here and now. It takes a greater than average effort to really get at the grime. I allowed a home in my home for some time. I do not often fall ill. The floor grime holds me safely in her keep. I am in my head, but I am also in bed, but I am also in the bed months ago in my head. My husband has his hands and has them heading to my mouth. I am getting the bed absolutely soaked with memories. I need something quick and dull to offer peace to my poor and tired heart. On the very first page of the book about how to get a literary agent to look at your manuscript that Larry loaned me, that blank page before the cover page, there is a circular stamp which says in circular font, "From the library of Larry M. Deacon," and there is a big D in the middle of the circle, as if for Dracula, but it is for Deacon, of course. The idea that he needs to mark his own territory down to the book, down to the letter. I laugh until it becomes a painful sob of feeling like all of being human is learning how best to either encourage or discourage a boatload of desire which somehow arrived. Thank you. Now please join me in welcoming Nathaniel Nelson.
Hey all. That was great. Thank you, Kate. This first poem I'm going to read is dedicated to every member of the Sewanee staff who has asked me about my astrological sign so far this year, which is at least 2/3 of you. This poem is called Against Astrology. Love, I have a friend who tells me everything we are is mirrored for us in a starry night's brocade, meaning we are mostly unillumined, empty chill and distance, in which tiny fires flash like earrings. There was a first night I powdered my face, glossed my lips, and lined my eyes, and a first bathroom mirror in which I saw what I'd known as myself, though that predictable self, my ever and only, did not appear there, nor did what it had always assumed as its kind, of whom only actors, clowns, and dancers paint their faces, knowing that those faces won't be theirs until the curtain falls, or the TV screen becomes a starless sky, a mirror. As for the darkened, smiling lips, gesturing obtusely as the fool toward the jagged corners of the mirror's frigid, empty theater, those were mine. Who can tell me what they gestured to, unless it was the sky above us, in which fragile stars were turning, uninhibited, trading winking glances, switching places. Actors, clowns, and dancers, love. Even Orion wears sequins. This one's called Letter to My Brother. Sorry that I haven't called. Sorry that I said I would, even then half knowing that I wouldn't. Everything I say comes out half true now. Nothing seems to fit. And honesty is hard when you're not sure you know a damn thing. I hope you're doing okay out there in St. Louis. I won't lie to you. That city gave me off-key vibes. It felt like the bastard child of Atlanta and Indianapolis, sadder, more confused, like it wasn't quite sure what it was, didn't quite know what to do with the parts of itself, or how they might add to a whole. These days, I'm a bit like that myself, though I'm still the same brother you sat on the couch with, watching bad movies on the projector Dad brought home from work. All those adapters and cables he rigged into knots just to get it to function. We called it the lair of the tech fetishist, after a scene in a movie I still haven't shown you. Tetsuo the Iron Man. It's good. We should watch it sometime. I'm writing to say that I miss you, and I keep putting down the phone because I'm also not the brother you knew. Walking the streets now, I hold my hand in my pocket, hold an invisible knife in my hand, and think of how quickly I'd flick it out if anyone looked the wrong way. Yesterday, I stood outside the post office, smoking a cigarette, and some guy was pacing the opposite side of the street, swinging a long, heavy stick, blaming it all on his enemies, chiefly the fags. People were ducking inside to get out of the way, and he gave me the look. I've come to know exactly what that look means. So, when he crossed the street and came at me, shouting that he was the fucking leg breaker, I made a fist around the invisible knife and shot him back my own look, one that I've practiced, that says, I will kill you right now. And he turned and left. I'd have done it too. That's the secret. That's why I don't have a knife. You just have to know for sure that you'd do it without hesitation, and every man on earth will leave you alone. But I don't want to keep you at bay any longer. I'm putting down the false knife. There, I've closed it. I've put the knife down on the table I'm writing this from. I've opened my hands. I'm beckoning you back. Everything is different now. I'm half a stranger to myself, turning into someone you haven't met yet, and I'm scared that when you meet them, we'll lose everything we had. I'm asking you to trust me, though, that we'll still get along when I come down to visit you in St. Louis. I still love bad movies, good ones, too. I'll call you soon. Let me know if things are still okay. For the record, I've been back to St. Louis since. I actually kind of like it now. Sorry if anyone lives in St. Louis. Okay. This one is called, this is like a dramatic monologue. It's called A Good Old Boy Leaves for the North. It's cold for early spring. I stand at the pump a long minute after the whisper of gas quiets down. The pump nozzle shudders and kicks, and I watch clouds of breath rise up to hang among the redbud blooms like cobwebs in the moonlight. This is the same parking lot we loitered in, the boys and I, sipping red wine out of sweet tea cans until the cops showed up. After the dollar store closed for the night and the station attendant went home, we'd hotbox someone's car sometimes in the back corner, far from the light posts, giddy in the haze of our shared breath. Those boys won't so much as look my way, not anymore. Seems like they'll chase anything else in a skirt, but they won't look. This time, I've decided I'll really do it. I'm leaving this piss gutter town. I turn the key and the engine coughs softly twice before it catches. Pulling out of the lot, the rain starts to fall. It drums at the hood of the car as I skim the small town streets, one by one, whispering their names. Then the darker county roads, slicked with rain and purple blooms, tended lawns and gray, untended fields, and the place where the stream sidles up to the road and runs in parallel with it a mile, fringed by the cattails we whipped ourselves with as boys. I say my goodbyes. And finally, a gravel road cutting through the woods beside the house where I grew up. Quiet trees now greened but still half naked, ponds of standing water edged by briars, knots of kudzu vine. This the place I used to come to, wearing Mama's stolen dress so I could play at being queen of the forest. I knew every spider by name, every pond. I named every tree. It's too late to say much else. I've reached the end of the woods now, taking the on-ramp into the highway, breaking into moonlight bright and lonely as taillights ahead. Spider moon that guides this web of asphalt, guide me now. Shiver the right county roads with a twitch of the leg so I know which to take. I'm not ready yet to be cocooned in smoke and breath. I'll run down these roads like rain on silk. This one, special thanks, I don't know if Adam Vines is in here somewhere, but special thanks to Adam Vines and the Birmingham Poetry Review, which published this poem relatively recently. This is called The Spirit. Setting is, this is at an Airbnb, and it's sort of loosely, or actually pretty closely based on a true story. When you get 4 nights in an Airbnb for $30 for the entire time, it's probably a trap, is what we found out. Maybe don't take that. Anyway, this is called The Spirit. 4 whole nights at $40 a piece. We waited for the catch and found it in the moment we arrived. The rented beds had rails to keep the elderly in place, a private nursing home kept under the table. There were tacky prints and huge koi circling 3 feet of pond. The owner never showed, but we knew she watched. Framed beneath the camera's eye, her face smiled down from the mantelpiece as silence rose to meet the vaulted ceilings. The house had one, and only one, unqualified gesture toward beauty. Finches, 3 of them, kept in a cage in the hall. Each would stare in total, disinterested silence as you watched, beady eyes and ragged, misshapen beaks. I hated how real the birds were and how still. I'm not sure I saw them move even once. The second night, the owner's son invited us to what he called a party, and we came home to find 50 people speaking in tongues in the vast living room. The workers and elderly tenants had vanished. They seemed to be hiding. As we nervously declined to join, the man at the center intoned, "I was covered in snakes. Then I felt the Spirit come upon me." I tried hard to fall asleep that night. Once the cries of Pentecostal ecstasy had dwindled down to hush, I almost let the Spirit come upon me, stole into the hall, gathered something heavy from the kitchen, smashed the cameras, then the owner's picture, and let the birds loose in that house. But one of the tired employees we met would have stumbled upon it that morning, given a sigh like the sound of the Spirit escaping, swept the broken glass, and returned the birds to their world. Always, at our farthest edges, the Spirit unspools like the flickering tongue of a snake, forked flame of anger and love, carefully testing the air, and meets with rails of metal or with someone's tired face. So it folds itself into the pitted mouth again, quiet in its cage of unused fangs. This poem, this is the last one, it's called Advent Poem. It starts with, the epigraph is from Wallace Stevens' Sunday Morning. It's not as a god, but as a god might be, naked among them like a savage source. We hushed our way on quiet new car wheels through southern suburb sprawl on Christmas Eve, checkered immaculate lawns of plated green on green. At just after midnight, the windows were dark, or dimly lit by the LED sparks of false candles, and the lawns were dark outside the pallid halos cast by backlit church signs, chicken wire nativities. Joyful, joyful we adore him. Christ is born in Bethlehem. Electrified annunciations of Advent, more frequent than stoplights. I thought of the woods I used to visit here, beyond the street lamp's reach, but open to the groans and chrome flashes of traffic along the main highway. Every tree taller than I was had been claimed by blankets of kudzu, dying branches slightly abstracted, under the heavy green nets of the vines. Clouds of it billow the landscape throughout Tennessee, invasive and deadly, but common, even domestic, native by virtue of long, irreversible spread. Watching the lettering burn in fluorescent eclipse on the corner of every third block, glory to the newborn king, I knew I'd never come back. Marquet lettered Angels of Hope. I've learned your message already by heart, still finding runners of gospel twined to my tongue every time I get drunk, netted by the stolen trail to preachers who would rather see me sterilized than fired in Jesus' light. Slow green suffocation creeping over me for years. Even so, the morning sun rose hot in Tennessee on Christmas Day, corkscrewing tendrils of light through a shaded backyard, warming the soft beds of kudzu, and my forehead, upturned more for heat than reverie, was seeded with a single spark of light that I felt germinate and spread in coils to the root of my body, burning, illumining me, weaving me with cross-hatched veins of savage disadoration. Glory be, Hosanna in the highest. Thanks.